Y'all, the fact that I am able to film this video right now, I am astonished because I really thought I missed the boat. I thought this baby girl was gonna arrive sooner than she is, but tomorrow I will be 39 weeks, so technically she'll be full term tomorrow. And I don't know if it was just wishful thinking of just wanting her out of there already, but I really didn't think she would still be cooking. Like, it is, I'm astonished, but I'm glad I got to film this video. So I'm gonna get into just talking about my third trimester recap. Obviously, I still have at least a week to go, if not 2 weeks, to really wrap up this third trimester. But on the off chance that she could literally be here any day, I wanted to get this filmed for y'all and for myself to document this journey. So it's gonna be kind of like the last video where it's a little all over the place, but I do include the chapters down below. So if you wanna like go to a specific thing I'm talking about, be my guest. I took a few notes, but it's gonna be all over the place. I'm gonna start off by saying, just a reminder, I hate disclaimers, but this is more a reminder that everyone's pregnancy experience is different. Like, just because you have one baby doesn't mean that next pregnancy will be the same as your first, and your pregnancy experience is not going to be the same as anybody else's. And I think I severely underestimated how much pregnancy was going to affect me on a mental, emotional, and physical level. And I think a lot of that just comes from being naive, in the sense of you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't grow up being around a lot of pregnant people, and the ones I was around, it just sounds like we have different experiences. And so if you haven't seen my first 2 videos of my first trimester recap and my second one, I'll link them down below or up above. But I would say pretty mild experience leading up to the third trimester. But I did state that, what week was it? It was the week of Christmas. That's when I was getting symptoms that I think traditionally most people get in the third trimester, and I was getting them a few weeks early. So this trimester, this last one, has felt quite long. December. Okay, so starting at week 23, that is when I feel like things started to go downhill, in the sense of, okay, y'all, this is affecting me, this ain't fun anymore, like that kind of vibe. And things just only progress the longer we've gotten into this pregnancy. So I'll go ahead and look at my notes. Let's see what we got. Wow. Starting with quality of sleep. I mentioned this in the last video, but it has, again, just progressed even more. I realized the other day that the last time I slept through the night was in December, and it's April. So we're talking about 4 months that I have not slept through the night. And part of that is due to frequent, like, needing to pee. I'm peeing probably at least 3 times a night, if not 4. And then on top of that, because of the sciatica, which I mentioned in the last video, you can go watch that, I'm having to toss and turn pretty much every hour. Like, I am waking up on average anywhere between 5 to 10 times a night, and most of the time it's around the 10 arc. And if I'm only getting like 6 to 8 hours of sleep, just depending, that's at least once in an hour, every hour I'm waking up. And so I do feel like, in a way, it preps you for when baby is here, because I'm used to not sleeping through the night. I'm used to getting up. Obviously, when baby's here, it'll be different, because I'll have to be staying up to feed her versus just getting to flip over and go back to sleep. But I do think, in a weird way, it kind of prepares you for that. But that's just a symptom I just thought you should know, is that quality of sleep, she is downhill, but you do adjust to it over time. But I am looking forward to how my life will be when I can go back to sleep for a full night, which it's gonna be a while. Another thing I wrote down physically was everything being more difficult. Like, I used to be able to knock out so much in an afternoon, in a day, in a morning, like if I wanted to clean the house, do all the things. And I have to be very intentional and strategic now about what I want to do, because truthfully, at this point in the pregnancy, like where I'm 39 weeks basically, I have to choose like one thing I want to do and make that the priority, because I will not have energy to do hardly anything else. And part of that also comes from how slow it takes me to do absolutely anything. And part of that comes from a walking standpoint, Girl, I started waddling. Hold please. Let me see what week it was. I feel like the waddle started early. The waddle started at 35 weeks. Okay, so I've been waddling now for 4 weeks, pretty much. And some people don't ever experience that. And I do think part of that's just your anatomy and how you carry your baby. I do have a shorter torso, and I don't think I'm a short person. I'm 5'5", if that gives you any reference. But I physically can't have my legs together. Like even sitting right now, my knees are pushed apart. When I drive, they're pushed apart. Like I can't have my legs pushed together. And so my walk is very slow. Like I live in a cul-de-sac, and I recently this week have been just going on walks in the evening around my cul-de-sac, and it's taken me 20 minutes to do 3 laps around a cul-de-sac. And I don't live in some giant cul-de-sac. It's a very normal size cul-de-sac, but that's just how short my strides are and how slow I have to go. Like it's not even like oh, you could go faster. You physically cannot, one, you're walking side to side with the waddle, and you physically cannot get your stride to go any further than what you do. Like it's almost like a rubber band. Like it's a little too tight where your body will not let you open up that stride anymore. So that's part of what attributes to everything taking so long, is physically just walking, and physical capabilities are very limited. Mobility is limited, but also the energy is extremely limited. Like yesterday, me and my husband, we did kind of our last, I would say probably last, hopefully she's coming soon, little outing where we went to a hockey game. And I was like, if we're going to this game, I cannot do anything else prior to it, or I will not be going to the game. And I took a nap on top of not doing anything prior. Like that is just how strategic I'm having to be at this point with where I'm putting my energy. So enough on that. I did say constipation at the beginning of the 3rd trimester. It was very brief, maybe a week. But then it kind of got better. I still am not regular in the sense that I go every day, or that it looks like what it did before being pregnant, but it doesn't, I'm not constipated anymore. So that was a short-lived symptom, but I know some people really struggle with that like throughout the entire 3rd trimester. Wiping, this goes back to mobility. When you go to the bathroom, when I say like everything's affected, everything's affected. When you go to the bathroom and you need to wipe, I don't know how you wipe. I'm a like lift a leg up and wipe kind of gal, but because of your stomach, and as soon as the baby starts dropping, like your belly starts dropping, that really decreases your mobility as well, where I've had to now wipe from the front, you know, going in between your legs. And then also sometimes it means I have to stand to like be able to get back there if I go number 2, which is like TMI, but I'm really trying to keep it real of just like, there is not one thing that hasn't been affected by this pregnancy where I'm having to adjust how I do something, or just, you know, work through these different challenges that are occurring. Another thing, just I guess still sticking with the mobility aspect of baby dropping, is I mentioned this in the last video where it's like 1st trimester and 2nd trimester, you're growing that belly and it like lifts up, up and up. But the longer you are pregnant and the closer you get to your due date, your baby starts dropping to kind of engage in the pelvis. And I'll show you. This is my bump, y'all. So it used to be like up here where it was coming down like right under my boobs, but it's since dropped pretty low because she's head down at this point. And that brings on its own little challenges in regards to sitting is uncomfortable, in the sense that like your stomach is basically sitting on your legs. Like it just feels like there's not room for anything. And that's why I was saying earlier, I'm having to spread my knees apart anytime I'm sitting, standing, things like that. Like it's just, when the baby drops, it's just uncomfortable. And another thing that occurs when the baby does drop is you'll experience, or maybe you won't, but I did, what's called lightning crotch, which is kind of a weird name, but it just means that once she's head down and your belly is dropped as a result, that she can start kicking or kind of touching nerves where it sends a shock down there, and it's definitely very uncomfortable. Like, it's a jolt. It'll stop you in your tracks where you're like, oh, and then it goes away. Like, it's very short-lived, but I will say the more she's dropped, the more I have felt it, which is obviously uncomfortable. So just a symptom, you know, to be aware of if you are not, you know, currently in your 3rd trimester yet. I'm trying to find my phone. Okay, let's see. This was a short-lived symptom, and this happened about 2 weeks ago, so I guess around week 36, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that my lady parts down there, like the pelvic area and lady part area, was very tender and almost swollen feeling. And it only lasted a couple days. I think maybe that was when my belly first dropped, but it, in a non-dramatic way, felt like someone had like punched me down there because of how just tender it felt. But it went away. I do think it was just the baby dropping, and like things just feel different. They look different down there. Like everything changes. So that was just an interesting symptom. Another thing is at this point in the pregnancy, depending on how big your baby is, my baby, I will say, has always been very active, pretty much since I could start feeling her back in December. And the bigger they get, the stronger those kicks and rolls and whatever they're doing in there, like the more you feel it. Like it is, I don't want to say painful. It's not painful, but it is very uncomfortable. It's like slinging around a 7-8 pound dumbbell in your belly. And like I said, she is very active. Where like some days I'm like, do you even sleep, girlfriend? Like, is this what I should be expecting when you come out? Is that you're not going to be sleeping and you're just going to be an active little girl? So that's just something, again, just a symptom that you're going to experience maybe, is just as they get bigger, you're going to feel everything that much more intensely. I also wrote down belly button sensitivity as it begins to flip. So I used to have an innie. Week 37 is when it finally flipped out, but I will say it had been very flat, like where it was like I had no belly button kind of thing for maybe like a month. I feel like it took a long time to actually flip. It just stayed flat for a very long time, but I officially have an outie. And so when it was starting to just flip out, obviously it was a little sensitive, but now I'm not really bothered by it or anything. I'm curious how everything will look after baby. And also, like, if you have an outie already, like, does it just get pushed more out? Like, I'm curious how that experience is, or maybe like it doesn't really change for you if you have an outie. I don't know. Oh, one thing I didn't mention about the baby dropping is as a result of the baby dropping down, I mean, she looks high when I'm sitting down, obviously, because everything's getting like pushed up, is my heartburn went away, which we can all be grateful for. So I ended up, I think I mentioned this in the last video, having to go up to maximum strength Tums. And I was taking those throughout the night. I'd wake up with heartburn, take it, and it was just so on and so forth. But as a result of her dropping, I don't have heartburn. I will say I've had acid reflux twice in the last week, which was a little like, where is this coming from? You know what I mean? But nothing crazy. Like, it was short-lived. I popped in a Tum, it went away, and it wasn't something that, you know, stuck around like the heartburn did. 'Cause the heartburn was 4 months. That was a really uncomfortable symptom, I will say. Braxton hicks is what I'll talk about next, and then just the emotional mental toll is what I'm gonna like talk about last, because that's a lot. So Braxton hicks, I put that I started experiencing at week 37, so about 2 weeks now. And what Braxton hicks are, it's the false contractions. Obviously you can do your own research, but I was looking, I'm like, what do contractions even feel like? Like, when you've never been pregnant before, you're like, well, when you experience contractions, go to the hospital, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you're like, what are contractions? You know what I mean? And from what I've read, least for Braxton Hicks, are contractions in general are a tightening of the stomach, but they can also be felt in your back. And I know the back ones apparently are more painful than the stomach ones, and you don't get to pick. But the Braxton Hicks are just your body kind of like preparing itself for labor. So it's like false labor, where it's gonna give you a little dip your toe in the water of how this is gonna feel, but regular contractions are supposed to be incredibly intense. And I will say in the last week, so my week 38, I was experiencing more frequent Braxton Hicks, and they did pick up in intensity like a day or two out of the week, but again, not real contractions, because the doctor or nurse basically told me that you need to come in if your water breaks or if your contractions are so intense that you cannot walk or talk through them, and you literally can't do anything other than like try to breathe and focus while you're trying to get through it. And one thing I do want to mention that occurred, and I think this is probably really common for first-time moms, is I ended up going to the hospital at, was that last week? 37 weeks. It was 37 weeks on the dot. It was Monday. Earlier that day, it was like around lunchtime. Within an hour, I had a lot of watery discharge. Like there wasn't any kind of like other discharge with it. It was clear liquid, didn't smell like pee kind of thing. So I called my doctor and I was just like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm just letting you know. And they were like, you're gonna need to come in so we can test to make sure you're not leaking amniotic fluid. And some people, if you didn't know, it's not always like a big gush when your water breaks. Sometimes it's a slow leak. And then some people's water doesn't break at all, and that ends up happening whenever they're at the hospital and they have to get that done. But I was like, okay. And in that moment, you know, as much as I've been wanting her out, I was like, oh shit. Like 37 weeks, I was not mentally prepared if she was here to make her debut. And I was just really emotional. I was crying. I went to the hospital with my husband. They checked me in. That was like truthfully my first hospital experience. I said this in the packing video, but I've never really been a patient in a hospital, so this is new to me. Anyways, they tested it for BV and also for the amniotic fluid, and both came back negative, and they kind of just chalked it up to, this might just be your new normal. And I know as pregnancy progresses, your discharge can increase or get thicker, but I don't regret calling because they're the ones that told me to come in. So I don't really feel stupid in the sense of like, oh, I'm a first time mom, like false alarm kind of thing, because I did what I was instructed to do of call, let them decide, and they were like, come in, and then it wasn't anything. But I will also say that kind of pushed me to become more knowledgeable. This entire pregnancy, I've avoided doing lots of research on things. Like, I don't want to be overwhelmed, and not to mention the amount of information out there. Like, for every one thing, there's something contradicting it. So you do have to, there's a lot to navigate. And I didn't want to freak myself out. But after that experience, I was like, okay, I kind of want to watch a few labor and delivery vlogs on YouTube, just to be able to see what other people are going through, to maybe make it not as scary to me. Because now this is going to segue into the mental emotional side of things of this video, which is, I think, a huge part of pregnancy that isn't talked about, or maybe not that many people go through it. I don't know. But it is a huge mind mess, if we want to call it that. Like, it really messes with your mind. And part of it is, the closer you get to pregnancy, like, yes, you're just so over it. You're like, get this baby out of me. Like, I'm over this, right? Grateful, but I'm over it. Like, get her out so I can stop being pregnant, because it is a very uncomfortable experience. Like, mentally, it's like every day not knowing if today's the day. And for some people that maybe love surprises, maybe you're into that, of just like, oh, how fun, like it could be any day. I am not that person. It stresses me out knowing it could be any day. One thing that makes it a little bit better is knowing that most people's labor starts in the middle of the night. And that has to do with melatonin and different hormones being released, like when we sleep and being relaxed and being in a dark environment that can start labor. And so for me, it's like every time I'm going to bed, I'm like, this could be the night. And every time I'm waking up to go pee in the middle of the night, I'm like looking for the other labor symptoms of like bloody show, mucus plug, or your water breaking. Because a lot of like stories I've read on YouTube has been people waking up in the middle of the night to go pee, and then that's when their water breaks, is when they stand up, or they're waking up to having their water already broken in bed, things like that. So that has been kind of nice to know that it'll probably happen at night, but it not always. So that's part of it. It's just the anticipation part is really what's killing me, of just not knowing when she's ready. And the days are so long, y'all. Like knowing I have a week until her due date, I'm still just like, that is a long time. And knowing she could go past her due date, because apparently with first time moms, it's pretty common for you to make it to your due date or go past it. And keep in mind, your due date is an estimate. It's not, you know, a crystal ball of this is when your baby's arriving. So I'm hoping, as always, that she could be before, but she could be after. And I haven't mentally prepared for the after if she wants to cook longer than her due date, because the days are so long. Like every day I'm just like, why? Like, she doesn't feel like she's comfortable in there because she's always moving, and that part's uncomfortable. So I'm just like, girl, what are you waiting for? You know, make your debut. Come on. But I think another thing emotionally, with knowing you could be due any day, is like you always, or I don't want to speak for you, but I always want to be home now. I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to go out and do things. And that comes back to energy, but there's also that anxiety of like, even though we went to the hockey game last night, it was fun, but I did have lots of periods of anxiety that I was just trying to like work through in that moment of, if she comes right now, this is not how I wanted it to be. And pregnancy is just one big thing where everything is out of your control. Getting pregnant is out of your control. Like, you don't get to control any of the symptoms you have. When the baby comes, like, that has been a struggle for me. And I wouldn't even say I'm a controlling person. I think it's more just I've learned I don't like surprises. And there's not a whole lot you can do to combat some of the things. Like most medicine, you can't take when you're pregnant. So when you get sick, you're kind of just roughing it. Things like that that's really been difficult. Another thing is just, you know, the influx of emotions or coming from your hormones. About, I would say 2 weeks ago, I had just a really emotional week where it just felt like I was very hormonal, like very unstable, and just all over the place. Like, I've cried quite a few times this third trimester, where like, that's not really, I'm a sensitive person, but I don't cry a lot. And I don't think I ever cried first or second trimester, but I've cried quite a few times this third trimester. And a lot of it has been due to the mental stress of things, of just being like, how much longer is this gonna last? Like, I don't know how, and maybe if you're going through this, you can relate. I feel like I'm like over explaining, but it is difficult to put into words, just the mental toll all of this takes on you. And then I think one of the times I was crying was about just knowing these are the last days of just me and my husband together. And obviously we're excited to have this baby and this is what we wanted, but it's still just like, again, it's bittersweet. You're closing a chapter and starting a new one, and that in itself is just, you know, everything's about to change kind of thing. And I did talk about that in the last video, but the closer you get to it, the more it's like, oh, shit is getting real. You know what I mean? And another thing I think this is the last thing I'm going to talk about, and this has been more recent that's been bothering me, is the amount of attention you get when you're pregnant. I'm not someone that enjoys being center of attention. I don't need to be stared at, things like that. Like, that's just not my vibe. You get a lot of attention when you're pregnant from everyone, people you know, people you don't know. And as a teacher, especially kids alone, I come into contact with about like 175 of them every single day. And then you add coworkers on that, I'm coming into contact with over 200 people every single day. And people make comments, or people are looking at your belly, or things like that. Like, it's every day. Like, there's not a single day you get to kind of just like forget you're pregnant. Not that you need to, but sometimes you're just like, this is not my whole personality. You know, like, this is a part of me. This is like something I'm experiencing right now. This is my season of life. But like, I am more than being a pregnant person. And my sister had made this comment when she was pregnant a few times of just like, that's all anyone wants to talk about is like, how are you? How's the baby? And you know their intentions are pure and they're genuinely asking and having something to talk about with you, especially if they don't know you that well. But it's just like, you get sick of talking about it because you're talking about it, the same thing with all of these people. And people are coming out of the woodworks texting me now. And again, appreciative of them showing interest or concern. But it's just a lot. As someone who, I'm not a big phone person at all. And so having all these people like blow up my phone and stuff like that, I'm not always texting back immediately. I mean, I rarely do that in general. Sometimes not the same day. Like, I mentally don't have it in me to deal with that. But it's also like, I'm over talking about that. I'll let you know when she's here, okay? But like, I am okay, you know? And again, coming from a good place, I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it. I know they're being just kind and, you know, considerate, but you get to the point where you're just over talking about it. And maybe some people don't feel like that. Like, maybe those are the people in that camp I talked about that just love being pregnant and maybe love the attention, or, you know, are the people that feel like being a mom is their purpose in life and always has been. But I definitely don't identify as that person. This is a part of me. It's not all of me. It will be a role, motherhood, but I have other roles in my life. You know, like, I am a wife, I am a friend, I have hobbies, I have other things that are outside of this, and I'm just over talking about it. Like, can we please just talk about something else? You know what I mean? And also, I was talking to my friend about this, but because I walk so slow, and some days are better than other, I will say in the morning is typically when I'm like the most flexible or the most mobile. I have the most energy. So I feel pretty good in the mornings, and it's morning right now. But as the day goes on, that gets less and less. And one day I was having a really hard time walking. Like, I could barely walk that day, to be honest. My hips were, I don't even know, not in a good place, I guess. And just from my classroom to the bathroom, I had at least 3 people like be like, are you okay? Because they could see I was struggling, but I'm just like, I'm an adult. I will call for help if I need someone. Like, I appreciate, again, them checking on me, them like even acknowledging that they could see I was struggling, but like, and they don't know other people are asking me that, right? They think maybe they're the first ones, but this just goes back. It's just, it's a little minute annoyance of pregnancy, I would say, is just the attention and the questions and the checkups. Like, I've got people that will like text me multiple times a week being like, how are you? How are you? Is the baby here? And all that. And I'm just like, you know, give me a break, girl. Give me a break. I will let you know. So I think that's it. I know I covered everything in the notes. I didn't, again, take like very detailed notes like I did that first trimester, because I really feel like this last trimester has more so been mental and emotional, and then just dealing with the physical discomforts. It's been annoying, but the mental emotional roller coaster has been very, very rocky, to say the least. And I will say that's where I do feel grateful to have a partner to support me in that aspect. And that's another thing, you almost feel a little guilt in a way of, or maybe you don't, I don't know, but where it's like, because you're needing so much support, they're having to really be that rock in that moment. And it's like, sure, that's the least they could do. Like, they're not the ones physically having to go through all of this, but it's still just, I don't want people to forget about their partner in the sense of like, they're having to go through this too in a mental, emotional way, obviously not physical, or maybe if you need help physically being cared for, sure. But like, we're all processing this stage chapter in our life. We're all processing it and in different ways and trying to cope, and it's affecting all of us differently. Because I do think a lot of people kind of, the mom gets put on a pedestal, which again, she is the one going through all of it. I am not dismissing that. Like, it is a very different experience for the mom than it is for the dad. But to just not forget about the other person, because like I said, they are going through their own, you know, thing, processing that their life's about to change too. So check in with your partner. I definitely was like, hey, you know I've definitely been reliant on you to, like, you know, tell me it's okay and things, you know, just get me out of my head, because I'm already a person that can be very in their head, and then with all this going on, it just intensifies it. But like, also being like, you can come to me and talk to me if something's going on, or you need to vent, or like, hey, are you okay? Just checking in with your partner. I cannot stress that enough, because I do think it gets overlooked a lot of the time. But that is it. This is a long video, but I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully the next video that comes up is when baby's already here. I'll be very curious when she arrives. So due date is April 21st. Let me know in the comments when you think she'll actually be here, what day. But I will see you in the next one. Bye.